Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. We have a quick one today, but we have a few things to do. And first of all, I'd like to start off with a tool that was given to me by my neighbors upstate, Pat and Sue. And they had a bunch of old stuff that they gave me, and they're getting ready to move too. They want to move down Florida. It's too cold up there. And they gave me a couple old tools, and one of these was, I didn't even know what it was. They said, do you know what this, and they had to tell me, and I think you might find it interesting. Let's take a look. Now, here is the object in question. I cleaned it up a little bit. It was a little rusty, but you could see here the quality of this tool, and I'll just give you a second to look at it and try and figure out what it is and what it does. I put that spring in there. It probably had one of those sheet metal coil springs, and to operate it, you just squeeze it a little together. You press this end up here like this, and you squeeze it like this. And let me show you what it does here. You could see what it will do to paper, you know, kind of shred it up. So what do you think this is? I'll give you a second to think about it. And this one here, it's pretty old, but they still make them today, and they look exactly the same. That's what's unusual. And okay, enough with the waiting. This is called, you can see here, it's a masticator. Not to be confused with the pastime that makes you blind. This is a tool made for chopping food for people years ago that would lose their teeth or something, and this was a way that you would bring this. Can you imagine pulling this thing out now and at a dinner table and just digging into your meat? You say, okay, hold on, and then digging into your steak and your other things and chopping it up and making it to, this is what this is for. And it's pretty interesting now because, you know, we wouldn't even think of that now. So, very unusual. Okay, next up, a good friend of the show, longtime subscriber by the name of Eric, A-R-I-C. I think it's Eric, both. And he asked me, he has a couple hammerheads, like we all do, that loosened up, and want to know how he can tighten them up. And I'll tell you, this is a subject that I've come in contact with many times. And, you know, there's all different ways that people say you can do it, and I've tried them all. You know, submerging them in water or antifreeze or anything else to try and tighten the head. Let me give you the lowdown that I found out so far. This might change with knowledge, you know. Maybe in time I'll come out with something different. But right now, I have found out that the only way to tighten up a hammerhead is to mechanically, physically enlarge the wood. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times when hammerheads hammers are mated to their wooden the handles, the handle has to be picked at a certain season. It has to be at the exact right temperature, dried, you know, as far as moisture content. And it's very difficult to do correctly, and there's not many companies that can do it. A lot of hammerheads will loosen up over time, and a lot of them over the years will dry out and loosen up, and you can soak it, and that'll get you through. If you had to do a job, let's say tomorrow you were going and you had a job to do and your head was loose tonight, you could soak it in some water. Tomorrow it'll swell up, but then a month from now it'll dry out again and loosen up on you. So how do you fix it permanently? That's what we're going to talk about now. Now, here we have two hammers, and these are both Craftsman, same model, and that's the 38071, a 10-ounce straight claw hammer, one of my favorites, same model. They're very similar in length. They had pretty much the same specs. The problem is that you can always see there's little subtle differences, you know. You can see that this one here is about, a little bit over 1/4 of an inch longer. And you can see that the head comes back further on this one. So, again, they still weigh in very close to the same, but it's, you know, the manufacturing process. This one here has a asterisk followed by A and a A5A. And this one here, I think, is a B0C. And you can see, so other than that, I can't tell. But a lot of these hammers were made for Sears by Vaughan. Now, those might be date codes on the back, I don't know, but Vaughan made a lot of them. And Vaughan, one thing about Vaughan hammers, they're fantastic. I've never had a Vaughan hammer loosen up as far as the head goes. Now, you can see a lot of people went away. 75% of new hammers today are sold that are not wood handles because people don't want to deal with them. They loosen up, they split, they crack, but they are a much better handle for absorbing shock. But, you know, you give up a lot because you never know. You can't trust them. You go to grab your hammer, it's loose. And what are you going to do? You can see here that the difference here in how the expanders are put in, the wedges, typically when a hammer is made, there's a split that comes down this way, and they put a wood wedge in, followed by 2 metal wedges or 1 metal wedge. This one here, they put this one in a little oblong, but that's usually how it's done. And if the handle is seasoned right, that should be enough to last the hammer for its lifetime. Here we have a beautiful Stanley. I love this little hammer. It's you can see it's an 8 ounce, and it's a ball peen hammer. And it had hardly seen any use, if any. You can see it looks brand new. It's beautiful. The only thing is, if you listen, it's loose. So it's loose from this way, like this. You can even see a little bit of movement. It's solid side to side here, but it's loose this way. So now if I soak it, and no matter what I soak it in, antifreeze, or if I soaked it in water, whatever I did, it would swell up and then eventually it would dry out again. So the only way to really do this permanently is to put some kind of insert in there and expand the grain this way and take up that that slack. Now, we've all seen these before. These are the hardened steel wedges that are used for when you have a hammer handle and you're going to put that last wedge in. So the wood goes from end to end. You would put a wood wedge in that goes from front to back, and then you would put a steel wedge in that goes side to side. You can see with this hammer, we don't have, you can see there, we don't have a lot of room to deal with. So, but we have to expand it. The wood wedge is already in there, and we don't have any place side to side, but we have to expand it more. So I have to fit another wedge in there. None of these will fit, and they do come in different sizes, but none of these will fit, so I'm going to make my own. And we've all seen this done with a nail before, but a problem with a round nail is a round nail does not grip wood. Now, the way I intend to fix this hammer is to use a good old-fashioned flooring nail. Now, you've seen these before. They're typically a squarish design, even though it's kind of a rectangle, but they're flat sides all around. These hold extremely well. This is what things were built with years ago, and they never let go. They have like 5 times the holding power of a regular nail. And if you notice, they're not pointed because they don't split. They push the fibers away, and this is a superior way to hold wood together, except that, you know, a little difficult to use. They are not malleable, which means they will break. They're hardened steel. You can't file them down. The file will just skate off here. They're hardened. So, they're called cut nails a lot of times. What you have to do is, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Dremel, and we're going to cut off we're going to make a small wedge, a miniature wedge out of this, and using the grinding wheel, the Craftsman grinder, and cut some grooves in here so it don't slip out. And we'll use just this tip, and we'll fill it in the front of here, and that'll expand it. So let's give that a try. Okay, here we are at the, we have the Craftsman bench grinder here. Now, this is where a Vise Grip is really your friend. You know, you chuck this nail into the Vise Grip, get it nice and tight. I mean, that's solid in there. And the key is that what we want to remember is we don't want to take, we don't want to put in too thick of a wedge and really mangle up the top of the head of that hammer. We just want to stop the movement. So we're only going to need about half the thickness of this, and then we're going to cut some grooves in this side, and then at last, when we're happy with the profile, we'll snap it off with the vise, and then we'll bang it in. So let's get working on it. Now, when you're happy with your grind, just chalk it up into the vise. Put the Vise Grip close to the edge of the vise and just snap it off. Because it's hardened, it'll snap right off, just like that. Okay, now you can see, here is our little wedge that we made. And I put a little grooves in there so that the wood fibers will close around it, it won't back out. Now, remember, it's hardened, so you got to be careful that you don't snap this. And you can see we sharpened the point just a little bit. And now I'm going to press this in here in the corner here and press it in. And you don't want this wedge longer than the face of the hammer. So right about there would be perfect. Let's go press it in. You know what? Let's use the Okay, the first thing we're going to do now is before we do any kind of wedge you're going to put in, you're going to drive the bottom up a little bit. So we're going to take a hammer here. I'm going to drive it, give it a couple good shots here, and that'll drive the handle up, and you can see it's starting to come across the top here a little bit. And then we'll put our wedge in here. Now, it's very tight. It's not loose anymore, but it will loosen up because that'll come up a little bit. So we got to keep that wedge will stop the head from rising up, and we're going to put that wedge right there. Now we could very easily drive this in with a hammer, but then how could I justify buying this expensive tool? So let's get it set up. I'll show you what it looks like. Here's the setup. We have the hammer handle right here, and we have the little ram resting right on the head of that nail in there, and we're going to press it down. Okay, so here we are with our finished Stanley, and you can see here, it's a nice looking fix. Looks very professional. We're going to coat this with a couple layers of linseed oil, boiled linseed oil. Just put it on with your finger, let it soak in, and you're going to do that every day for a week, and then every week for a month, and every month for a year, and that's it. And this is dried out a little bit, but it will come back, and this is solid now. It's not going anywhere. It's only an 8-ounce hammer, so you really don't have to worry about. But it's a beautiful hammer, isn't it? Very well balanced. And now if you had to do this on a full-size hammer, you might want to use the top half of this nail. But today, because it was a small hammer, we used the bottom half. I hope that helped out, and I hope you can tighten up some of your hammers mechanically so that they'll last for a lifetime. Okay, thanks very much. Take care. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.